Hey everyone, thanks for joining. I'm Robin with One Paper Street, and I'm really excited to do today's card. We are going to make some birthday cards, and I'm just adjusting the lighting to see if I can maybe make it a little bit brighter in here. But I'm going to be making a birthday card, and I'm really excited about this particular design because I just got these stamps. And I'm so excited to try them. They were a gift for my birthday, and I'm just super pumped. So, I am going to be making a birthday card because my birthday's coming up in a couple days. Woohoo! But I thought that it could be really fun to just incorporate some bright colors, especially since these are little hummingbirds. If you can't see them, I'll get a little closer. But these are from Honeybee Stamps, and they are Grandma's Garden um, is the stamp set. So all right. So I love lives because they get to you get to kind of see like the whole process, the raw process, the unedited process. So what we're going to be doing today, I mentioned the stamp set, the Grandma's Garden stamp set, but we're going to be making a square card because I thought that could be fun. I do have even though my card base is white, I am going to be working off of this piece of paper specifically. This is Nina Solar White. I think it's 85-pound paper. But I'm going to be using this for my stamping and for my Copic coloring. And then we're going to take this once it's finished and we're going to put this on the card itself. So the reason I'm not putting it directly on the card base is because sometimes Copic markers bleed through. They usually bleed through. So I don't want to be stuck having that on, the back of my card base right here. So I'm going to set that aside for now. We're going to come back to that a little bit later. And then the other thing that I'm really excited about is I have this happy birthday border. Now I have something to share kind of fun related to this in a little bit, but I won't get into that quite yet. But it says happy birthday to you. And this is going to be the sentiment for my design. Now, I don't know exactly what my design is going to look like. I'm sort of thinking that these flowers come from the top down, or maybe they even come from the corner, so they're kind of facing this way, and then the birds will kind of face towards them as well. But the other thing that I think is going to be cool is some colored paper. So I don't really know how I'm going to use this yet, but I think it goes with the color palette for the Copics that I'm using. So I brought it out and I figure I would just kind of test it out and see how I like it. If I decide to use it, cool. If not, that's fine too. This one right here is some shimmery paper, so I thought that could be really fun. So I'm going to set that aside as well. And then the marker colors that I'm going to be using are right here. So I grabbed more colors than I thought I might need, but essentially we've got several purples, we've got several blues, we've got some teals here, and then we've got some gray, dark grayish, blackish colors. So I'm going to be coloring the hummingbirds using this kind of color palette. And I don't know, when I think of hummingbirds, I just think of like really, really bright colors. And I wanted to use some of the purples and use some of the blues. So I literally just Googled purple hummingbirds, and I came up with this picture here. So this is going to be kind of the color palette we're using for our hummingbird, and it looks a little bit different on camera, but right here there's some purple, some light purple around its chest, and then darker purple kind of down below and by its head. There's a little bit of blackish gray on the beak, and then the feathers are kind of a lighter but still purplish, kind of like blackish purple. So we're going to play with that and see how it goes. And then down by the tail is some navy blues, some teals. So we're gonna work with that a little bit too. And then there's a little bit of a teal color in the light areas of the fur. So I said fur, feathers. So that's going to be our inspiration for today's artwork. And then I really want the I really want the hummingbird to stand out. Like I want that to be the big pop of color. So the other thing that I thought would look kind of cool with this design was just some craft brown. So I might actually do the flowers in like a craft brown and then just not worry about coloring them. And then I'll go in and color the birds, and then we'll kind of put it all together. So should be a really fun time. Let me get some craft paper and then we'll start our stamping process. And I hope everyone's having a good day today. I've had a really good week. It's been a fun week, a lot of learning, a lot of new things that I'm trying to do in my blog and on my YouTube channel, on my Instagram. So we have something exciting coming this weekend. And that is, well, I guess I'll share it with you now, and then I'll share it near the end of the live as well. So one of the exciting things that's happening this week is I mentioned that it was my birthday, and I wanted to just kind of do something fun for everybody who has been really amazing and who's been following along on the channel and following my art journey as I've been making cards and working on watercolor paintings and just trying to learn my craft a little. As I share it with you, I've been trying to learn more and more and more techniques all the time. So I just thought it would be a really fun way to give back to the community. So one of the reasons why I'm using this particular die for my sentiment, the happy birthday to you die, is because I have two. So I have one for me and I have one for an amazing fan out there whoever signs up for my giveaway. I am doing a giveaway at the end of the week. It's going to go for a week, so you'll be able to just kind of comment on my Instagram post, follow me, and then like the post, and I'll be putting everybody's name in for a drawing, and then one lucky winner will win this Lawn Fawn die. So I thought it would be fun to use in today's card, given that we are going to be giving away a second one of these for some lucky winner out there. So that is the exciting news for today's stream. Now I'll talk about it a little bit more here later today, but we'll go ahead and get started with our craft paper. And the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my black ink. So I've mentioned this before in past videos and past streams, but for Copic coloring, I really like to use this archival ink, and I really only have one ink pad that's archival, and it's black. So all of my outlines end up being black just because that's the only one I have. Excuse me. So I'm just trying to open this up, but I am getting it stuck. This is the first time I've opened it, so it's usually a little easier to grab than this, but it could be user error. I think it's just stuck to the plastic. Ooh, there we go. All right. So, oh, there's a little bit of glue on the back. That's why it was having a hard time coming out. Okay, so I'm going to set the packaging aside, and for those of you who are curious, I talk about this on my Instagram channel a little bit, but I actually keep the original packaging, and I just put the stamps back in it, so I never get rid of this. I just find that it's easier for me to keep track of my stamps if I have it in something, but I've never really wanted to buy envelopes. They're also not, I don't have a lot of storage space, so having a standard envelope size means less flexibility in how I can organize my stamps. So I usually just keep that original packaging, and then I just use what I have. So I'm going to open up the dies as well. And then hopefully this one's a little bit easier to get out. Yep, this one's much easier to get out. Okay, so these have a bunch of tape. So I'm just going to set that aside for right now. We can come back to that one later. But what I want to do first is my flowers. So whenever I use a stamp for the first time, I like to just kind of stamp it as is. I don't really get overcomplicated with it as I'm trying to figure out how I like to use something. And then the more I use something, the more I usually get creative with it and start to use it in different ways. And sometimes in extreme cases, I've even been known to cut up my stamps so that I can get a certain picture without all of the side stuff, but we are not going to do that to the stamp because I just absolutely adore the stamp the way it looks. So I'm going to put it right here because I am going to die cut it. I'm not leaving it on this craft paper. So we're going to do this, and then I'm gonna, one of the things I really want to make sure that I do is I really, really, really want to push my paper all the way up to the edge. And that means that if I need to double stamp it, I can. And this paper was actually, it looks like it was kind of cut a little uneven, so, but I think that's as much to the center as we can get. So we're going to do that. I'm going to put the magnets down, and then we'll go ahead and put this down, and that looks pretty good. And sometimes I find that when I get paper from the manufacturer, it's not a perfect rectangle. And it sometimes isn't even 8.5 by 11. Sometimes it's like a little bigger than 8.5 and a little bigger than 11. Sometimes it's a little smaller than 11 too. So you just got to be careful as you're using it. Just measure the best you can and just, use it with care. Okay, so I always forget to do this, but I do want to put a little bit of water into a container because we're going to clean it pretty quickly after it's done. So I have a little bottle of water that I keep to the side, so I'm just going to pour a little bit in. You can't see this, but off to the side I have a little stamp chamois that you get wet, and then you can use it to clean your stamps. So I'm just pouring a little bit of water into that. And it's cold water, so my hands are going to be really cold later. All right, so I've just got my stamp chamois soaking in that so that I can use it later when my stamp is done. And then the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take out this StazOn ink cleaner. So I'll use the StazOn first, and then I'll use the water after that. Okay. So, trying to get everything in the picture here. So I'm going to take my Ranger archival ink, and then I'm just going to place it down on my stamp. And since this is the first time I'm using it, it's probably going to take me a little bit to just get a clean image. And then sometimes I even stamp twice because it's the first time I'm using it. So as I press the ink down and as I kind of work it in with my hands, sometimes I need another pass at it. So we'll see. Yeah, you can see this is a little light over here. So we're going to hit that one again. And this is a really old ink pad. I probably need to get a new one, but that also means that I sometimes have to stamp it more than once. But even if you have new ink pads, sometimes it can almost have too much ink on it and you need to stamp it a couple times because it's uneven in certain areas. But I love polymer stamps for that reason, because rubber stamps are beautiful, but it's really hard to get a clear impression and like know exactly where you're stamping it on the paper. And I feel that way about loose stamps too, like rubber stamps that have a block on the back of it. Those are, again, really pretty and just a piece of art in themselves, but sometimes they're not always as practical as I need it to be. Okay, so we've got our nice, beautiful picture of our flowers. So now I'm just going to come back and I'm going to use the StazOn. I'm just going to get the ink off of here before it sets, which it probably set a little bit already. And then I do grab a little paper towel. I don't have like sometimes you can use like a stamp scrubber or something like that. I don't have anything like that. So I just use this and it's always worked pretty well for me. But the reason I go over it with water afterwards is because I want it to, I don't want this like stamp cleaner to just sit on my stamp. It's not super harsh, but it's not something you want to leave on your stamp. So I might run over it one more time just to make sure I got everything. And then, if everything looks good, which it does look pretty good, it looks like I've gotten the majority of the cleaner off. And I've got some fuzzies on it because I've used paper towel. Again, probably not the best material, but it's inexpensive and it's what I've always done to clean it. So that's kind of how I continue to do it. But this is why we come back through with our stamp chamois. So I'm just going to squeeze it out a little bit, get rid of some of that excess water. But one of the reasons why we go through with our stamp chamois is because it's got a lot of lint on it now from the paper towels, and it's got that chemical from the cleaning solution. So I like to just kind of rub this, I'll move this over so you can see. I just like to rub the chamois over top of it to like get rid of any of the excess cleaner and fuzzies and all that might be on it. All right, so I'm going to set that aside. And then I'm going to peel this off and just set it to the side. I always let it dry. Again, personal preference. I always let it dry before I put it away. Okay, so I've got my flowers done. And next, I am going to do my little hummingbirds. And actually, I'll use this big piece right there. Maybe I'll do this. Flip it the other way around. All right, so I'm going to use my little hummingbirds. And I think since, like, if I have the flowers like this, if I have the flowers kind of off to the side like this, then I think I want this one here as one of the birds. And then maybe I'll have another one just kind of like coming next to it. And we'll see how that looks. And then I can change anything that I want to later. So I'm just placing them in different areas. It doesn't need to be too perfect because I'm actually going to be using the dies to cut these out. So all I need to do is just make sure that I've got a nice clean stamped image again. Yep, and this is what I mean about the paper moving. So as I pulled it up, my paper just moved, which is fine because I've got it right along the edge there. But if I didn't have it along the edge, I'd have a really hard time making sure that I had it in the right place so that I didn't get like a messy print as I did it. Okay. So just going to go ahead and stamp my ink down like I did before. I mentioned this in my last stream, but archival ink right now seems to be the best for out of all the inks that I have for Copics. But I'm not 100% impressed, to be honest. I have found that the lighter Copic markers, they bleed a little bit more than I'd like them to. So I'm still on the hunt for that perfect ink for Copic markers. Dark colors, it doesn't really matter if you get a little bit of a bleed because, I mean, they're usually so dark that the ink itself just kind of gets covered or gets hidden pretty well. But lighter colors like light yellow, pastel pinks, light blues, things like that, they're a little harder to cover up when something happens or bleeds or you swipe, you catch a swipe of the archival ink with your marker and then it like drags across your image. That's always a bummer. Okay, so again, same process as before. Just cleaning off our stamps. And actually, if I would have thought about it, I probably could have put them both on, I could have cut down that craft paper a little bit and then put them both on the Misty at the same time. But, oh well, you live and you learn. So again, just making sure it's really good, nice and clean. If I need to hit it again, I know you probably can't see it with the camera, but there's still a little bit of ink on it. And if you notice, I wiped the top of it, the top of my StazOn on my paper towel as well. That's because as I'm applying the cleaning solution, I get ink on the top of my cleaning pad. So it just helps me keep my solution clean as well as keeping the stamp clean. Okay. So that looks pretty good. All right, now we may find that we want to do another stamp or two later, but I think for right now this is pretty good. So we'll go ahead and just set those stamps to the side. And then I think we could be ready for our Copic coloring, which is very exciting. Another thing that you could do with this, if you wanted to get creative or kind of make it look a little different, if you're not a marker person, you could always put this on some watercolor paper, and then you could watercolor your birds, which I think would look really cool. You could also use colored pencils. That would look really cool. So it's whatever you want to do. It's your design to do what you would with it. So, hey WikiWoo! Yes, these are new stamps. Thank you so much for noticing. They're so nice and clean and pretty. So I was very excited to use them. I couldn't not use them tonight. Okay, so we are going to break out the Copics. Now, the one thing you'll see that I do, I don't know if everybody does this, but I absolutely do it. I keep a spare piece of paper nearby so that I can wipe down any like messy bits. So if I get some archival ink on my marker and I need to wipe it off or something like that, I always keep just some scrap paper nearby. So I have a whole pile of scrap paper. I'm just going to try to find something that I don't care about. Oh, we'll use this. Not that I don't care about it, but it's just a nice little easy piece of scrap paper. Okay. So this was actually a piece of paper that I used in a previous stream when I was making a Christmas card, and I made a little Christmas tree. But we're going to flip it over, and this is going to be what we will use for our scrap paper. And in case you're wondering why I'm using scrap paper, I just kind of set it to the side, and I will use my marker to color in the bird, and then if I get something that I don't want on my marker, I can just swipe it off real quick. All right, so we are going to start with, and in case you're wondering how I keep track of the colors of my, oh, there's a piece of paper stuck to the back that I did not mean to set my Copic guide on. Well, there you go. There's life in a messy craft room. All right. So, I have this lovely guide that kind of helps me keep track of all my Copic markers. So I've got V4 here, V6, and V9. Those are my purples. My violets. So those are going to be what I use on the bird's stomach and around the wings. And then I've got BG10 and BG13, which are kind of like teal colors. And then I've also got some blues, B28, B24, and B04. So those are the colors that I'm going to be using today. So I'll keep that nearby that I can use it as a reference. And then the other thing I'm going to do is just kind of pull up my bird, set my bird somewhere over here so that I have it pulled up as a reference as well. And was just changing my screen setting displays so that my hummingbird didn't time out and like my phone screen didn't turn off every 30 seconds. Okay, so I'm gonna zoom in a little bit, and I'm just gonna keep the scrap paper off to the side. Can use that as needed, but let's start with the belly of the bird. So it's got this really cool belly. And it's like a bright purple, and it's just like this really cool color. So we're gonna kind of give that to this bird. And I don't really know what it's gonna look like, so I'm gonna do one bird first and then I'll do the other. And we're kind of just gonna do this, and then we'll blend it out here in a little bit. And actually, I almost feel like this kind of comes up into the face a little bit. And then the darker, the V9, I kind of feel like it's gonna go a little bit like this. And I know this is like really rough right now. B28, I kind of want my blues to be into the wings a little bit. And then kind of like that, I think. And then we're actually gonna have, there's a little bit of teal back here. And I think I'm just gonna do it with the darker. We'll see how well this blends in. If it doesn't, we can always just kind of cover it with some blues. But this is B24, so this is a little bit lighter than the blue that we were just working with. And then we'll round it off with a little bit of a lighter, much lighter blue down at the very bottom. Okay, so here's where Copics do a really good job. I'm not totally done with my purples, but I think I'm gonna set those aside for a minute because I just want to take a moment to like blend this wing. So I'm just kind of taking the medium blue and the dark blue and just blending them into each other. And I'm kind of just like swiping it like this because, I mean, hummingbirds have feathers anyways. So if it looks like feathers on the outside, that's totally fine. And then again, I'll just kind of swipe it like this. Let it blend a little bit. And then I'll take my light blue one more time. Just kind of line this. And then I'll swipe up. So that should be about all for that wing. We'll visit the other wing in just a moment. But right now I'm actually going to take my V9, which is my dark purple, and I'm going to blend it into the wing a little bit. So here I'm just kind of taking a slightly darker color that I had, and I'm just kind of working it into the wing. And then I'll even take that dark blue, which is the B28, and I'll just blend it up into my purple real quick, and then I'll create little swipes. So, oops, keep going to open the wrong side. Again, this is my medium blue, and then we'll do one more time with the light blue. You do have to be a little bit careful that you don't get too close to the edge if you have a lot of ink on your paper, because you will find that it spreads out. But okay, I like the wing, so we're gonna leave that alone. And instead, we are going to focus on the belly a little bit more. And I'm just gonna kind of wipe this purpley color. And then I'm also gonna take a little bit of the purple and just kind of take it up here. And I'm just kind of laying down some color right now because again, it's gonna blend out. And I think I want this medium to even go a little bit further out. And to just kind of do that. And then maybe we'll come back and we'll add the darker in just a little bit. And again, there's two birds, so if I don't like this one, I can always scrap it, or I can make another one. But kind of liking how this one's turning out so far. So I'm just kind of laying the medium down for right now. And then we are going to get to that teal. It didn't quite turn out the way I would have hoped it would, so we're gonna tackle that here in just a little bit. We're not gonna worry about that quite yet. Okay, so all I'm doing now is I'm laying that lighter purple again. So again, Copics just tend to work in layers. So as I lay down my Copic layers, they're kind of just, the colors are blending into each other. Okay, so I'm gonna grab some of the darker purple and I'm just gonna kind of create like a feathered look. All right. So if you look here, you've kind of got like the little feathers up at the top that are a little bit darker. You've got some feathers here that are a little bit darker. So just kind of bringing a little bit of that in and making it look kind of feathery. But if I think I put too much on or something like that, I can always go back through. Or if you feel like something doesn't translate well from your picture to your artwork, you can always fix it, throw it away, use something else, whatever you want. It's your artwork to do as you please. Now the reason I'm using some lighter colors back here is because I don't want the body to fade too much into the wing. So that's kind of why I'm separating them a little bit. And then I may also just like put a little gem where the eyeball is, because I feel like the darker colors that I'm using have kind of taken away from the eyeball a little bit. Okay, so I do think I'm going to cover up the purple, or cover up the teal right now, but I think that it could be okay that I'm doing this, because I think we're going to make maybe we'll make the other hummingbird have a little teal in it. I just don't think it's quite working the way I wanted it to. So we're going to not overcomplicate it, and I'm just going to take a little bit of blue, and I'm going to swipe up with the blue, and then take a light blue. Yeah, I think we'll use the light blue. And we'll just use that to kind of blend into the purple a little bit. And then I'll take that dark purple again, that V9, and I'll just swipe it into the blue. And then I'll take some light blue and just kind of swipe it down so that we can have light blue tips on our wings. All right, so I'll just blend out this little tail real quick. Okay, so the last thing we need to do for this little guy is just the other side of the wing. Now again, if I make these colors too dark, then it'll just look like one big dark blob. So you can kind of see my little hummingbird right there. But I think what we'll do, just to give it a little bit of a differentiation, is I'll actually start with some light blue and just kind of do this, color it in like that. And then I'll bring in a little bit of the darker blue and I'll just like hit the tips of it. So I'll skip the B28, which is the darkest color, and I'll grab this medium blue and I'll just kind of hit the top of it here. And then I'll also I'll just swipe down a little bit. So it looks kind of like feathers. And then I'll grab that light blue, that B4 again, and I'll just go over top of it and kind of try to blend it in. The other thing I could do if I really wanted to was I could like put a shadow or something just underneath it. Like not a lot, but just enough to kind of accent it here. So that's an option as well. And I just want to blend it out. So just grab a couple quick swipes. I always think it's funny because whenever you're watching a YouTube video like a sped up video, it always looks like people do this so fast, and it really is not that fast. All right, so really wish the belly was just a little bit more stood out. So I'm putting a little bit more of that bright purple on it and just wishing it would stand out a little bit more. Okay. And I guess this is just one of those things where you could just keep tinkering if you wanted to, or you could just let it be. But I sometimes tend to be a tinkerer to my detriment. Okay, so we've got the first bird done, and it's actually a little bit darker than I would have expected, but that's okay because we have one more bird to do, and maybe I'll work the teals into this one, and because I am doing this one second, I feel like I have some learnings to take away. Like instead of starting with the stomach, I'll start with the wings, move to the tail, and then move into the stomach from there. So that should be helpful. All right, so we only have 2 colors here. I don't have a third teal, but if you'll notice, I got a little bit of ink on my bird, but that's okay. So I'm just kind of coming in and just filling in this area because I have a little bit less to work with. I guess I could use, there is one darker color that I have which I could use. So maybe I'll see about that. And I don't know if you can tell, but I just got a big swipe of ink on my wing. And this marker is actually relatively dry. I've used it on a lot of different projects. It's actually one of my favorite Copic colors. So it is a little drier than I'd like. So one of these days I'll have to get an ink refill and do a tutorial on how I do my ink refills, but I don't have an ink refill for that specific color. So right now I'm just blending, trying to make sure that I can blend out my green. blend out my blue-green into my lighter color. And then sometimes I just literally just get right in there and just start blending it so that it gets a little bit easier. The other color that I could grab that I didn't think to is this BG72. So I could use this as like a darker color by the top. Oh my goodness, this color is completely dry. Wow, that's really disappointing. It's almost like like the lid wasn't on all the way. That's really unfortunate. All right, well, we won't be using this. We won't be using that marker. I normally don't have problems with my Copics drying out or like not holding their ink. And I haven't really used that color very often, so I haven't checked it to see whether or not it's working. But this particular marker that I'm using, it's just not working. Well, it is working, but it's just not as wet because I use it all the time. Okay. So we're going to give it one more swipe. Make it look like we have some feathers. And then we're going to go to work on the rest of it. So I'm going to do the tail in this light color as well. And I have to be really careful because I am definitely grabbing some ink with me and I don't want to smear it all over the place. And I'm just gonna swipe that to blend it in. All right, now one of the problems that I made on my last bird, one of the mistakes I made, is I didn't try to blend my purple into my green with like a color in between. So when I do it on this bird, I'm actually gonna give myself a little bit of a buffer. So what I mean by that is green doesn't blend into purple very easily. And like, yes, this is a bluish green, but it doesn't really, it's not really meant to blend in with purple. But if you have some sort of like middle ground color, it can make that process a little bit easier. So we know that the blues can blend in really well with the purple. So I'm gonna just like grab this medium blue. Oh, I keep opening it from the wrong side. And I'm just gonna kind of like use it as a little bit of a buffer. I think that's one of the mistakes that made the last bird a little bit harder to blend. So. Oh, I almost grabbed the wrong blue. That would be really disappointing. All right, so all I'm doing is I'm just kind of swiping into the green to blend it out. All right, and I'm gonna do the same thing here with the wing. I'm gonna just kind of create a little bit of a segmented, like a transition, I should say, is probably a better way to describe it. And then maybe I'll even bring the blue up into the wing a little bit like that. And then I'll just kind of swipe this to blend that in. I think that actually looks pretty good. All right. So I think we're ready for the purple. So I think what I'm gonna do is use the lightest purple. I'm so bad at grabbing the right side. I'm gonna use the lightest purple, and I'm almost gonna like start here and then just kind of bring it around the eyeball. And I think that if I do this and I do it from this way, I'll be able to kind of keep the face a little bit lighter and then not hide the little eyeball. Because I feel like in the last one you have a really hard time seeing the little eyeball. Which truthfully, I'm kind of thinking about putting a little gem on it and just like making it really stand out. But we'll see. All right, and then I'll take my medium purple, which is my V6, and now I'll just kind of blend in to the other areas. So I'll blend in to the blue, and that should be a relatively easy blend. And then I'll just kind of take it around here and then blend it up into the head. And I think this one is turning out a lot better. It's less dark, a little bit easier to see the face of the little hummingbird. So I just think I went in a little too strong with that dark purple, that V9, and then I couldn't hide it. I could blend it, but I couldn't like take away that tone of just having a little bit too much of a dark color in there. Okay. I'm gonna come up here and just again, one more time, just kind of blend the blue and the purple together. And then I kind of just do this in waves because I keep just kind of messing with it and tweaking it and whatever until I like it and until I'm happy with it. So that might look different for you than it would look for me. Maybe you're someone who is like, you know, it looks fine. I'm just gonna stop it here and just enjoy what I have, and that's perfectly okay. Whatever works best for you, you should definitely do. And I want to blend the colors that are in the wing. I want to blend that a little bit. It seems to be a little bit easier to do that if I almost make the green, the darker green, a little bit more prevalent. So I'm just kind of working it in over here instead of taking it all the way to the edge like I had it before. And then I'm just working my BG10. I'm just working it into the other areas, and since I laid down a little bit more of the BG13, I'm just kind of going back through and laying down a little bit more of the BG10 so that it blends a little better. All right, so now we got the one. This one looks a lot better, I think. We got the one area done. I think that's looking pretty good. And we've got the blue that is, again, just kind of creating some separation between the purple and the teal. And then I'm just laying a little bit of that lighter color down again just to make sure that that's nicely blended, because I really like the way that looks and I don't want it to get covered up. So I'm just kind of laying that back down. And then I'll put a little bit more right here around the eye. So as it dries, it blends less. So if you need it to blend, you need to essentially wet it again. But you don't want to wet it too much because then it almost starts to look splotchy. So there's definitely like a fine line there. Okay, so I actually think what I'm going to do for this other wing is I'm going to do a little bit of the green, the dark teal color, but I'm going to also do a little bit of the gray because I think that that's going to make it look like there's a little bit of a shadow on it, and that's what I want. So I think I'm going to just right like that. Maybe I don't want 6. Maybe 4 would be better. And just, yeah, that's good. Add a little shadow here, just to show that it's the back of the bird, and if the light's coming from this way, then you would have a shadow behind it. So, perfect. All right, so we are done coloring the little hummingbirds. We used a bunch of colors, and we learned that my BG72 marker is not the best. All right, so now it's time to cut everything out and start applying it to my card and see how it looks. So we've got these flowers over here. We've got these little hummingbirds that are super cute and fun. And what I need to do next is use my Sizzix Big Kick. So for you guys who haven't seen it, it's like a big machine, not a big machine, but it's a hand cranked machine. There are other machines that are not hand crank, they're automatic, but those are more expensive. So I use my Sizzix, and basically what you do is you put a metal die over your design, and then you use that to cut it out. So I need to do that for my flowers, and then I need to do that for my birds. So it'll be this one, and then I think this one. Yep, that works. And then you can also take a little bit of washi tape, and you can stick it down, which actually that washi tape is a little too sticky for what we're trying to do today. So I keep a little jar of washi tape, and this is the one I want. All right, so been doing a lot with Copics lately. I feel like I should get some more colors, but they're kind of expensive. All right, now one of the things that's really, really nice about doing this die cutting is that I can actually just kind of cut this out. I'll just do this. And I'll cut this a little bit as well. I can set this here and like position it on the mat as long as it looks good, looks centered. And I can take a little bit of washi tape and I can just stick it down, and then I can run all 3 of these dies through the machine at the same time, which is really nice. If I'm using like a really big die, or if I'm using the same die multiple times, then I have to kind of reevaluate, not do that. Might not work. But I'll go ahead and just do this, stick that down so that it doesn't go anywhere. You don't have to stick it down, it's sometimes easier. And I like this washi tape in particular because it doesn't leave any residue after it comes out of the machine. And sometimes other washi tape will like peel your paper. Like it'll actually like remove the ink, or I had one set of washi tape remove colored pencil after I ran it through, and that was a bummer. I ended up having to like pencil it over again. Okay. So I've got everything kind of in its place. You can see all the dies are stuck to the paper. So now I'm taking this other plate and I'm just laying it on top. So I've got a plate underneath, I've got a plate on top, and now I am ready to run it through the machine. So you can probably hear it in the background. Basically, I'm just like hand cranking it through the machine. And then I run it through, and then I just kind of crank it in the opposite direction to bring it back. And then that is sometimes overkill depending on the type of paper you have. But if you have a really thick paper, it's good to do it twice just to make sure you get a nice clean cut. So we'll see how well I did. And you can kind of see they're just starting to pop out as I take them out. And I'll just leave those. And then, yep, you can see like came right out. Super easy, super nice. This flower was a little bit off, so you can see that like my ink is a little closer to the edge of the paper than I'd like, but that's okay. It still is a really good image. And you can never get it truly perfect because sometimes things move inside the die cutting machine. So you can think you have it on straight and then it turns out it like shifts during the process. So, all right, so I just kind of want to figure out where I want it to go right now. So I'm thinking this will go here. I'm thinking this could maybe go here. Maybe something like that. I also just feel like maybe the square card is just a little too big. So maybe there's a world where I use a smaller card base, like say this one, and maybe we do this instead. I think this could look really cool. Maybe this is the one I'm going to use. It's always nice to be willing to get flexible with your projects too. Like if you feel like something's not working, you don't have to force it. Just change it. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. It doesn't have to be a big thing. Just do what you like, and if you see something that you thought was going to work and it ends up not looking quite like what you wanted, you could just pick something else. So in this instance, I am not happy with this on my my square paper, but I think I'd be really happy with it on maybe some black paper. So we'll see. We'll see what we think. I keep all of my paper scraps kind of just in a folder. I say black because we've got black here, and I think that would offset with the craft paper pretty nicely. This is just like a regular black. Let me see if this would be big enough. Oh, this actually would be big enough. All right, so let's test it out. Ooh, I really like this. I really like these colors and how they look. Okay, this is a maybe. I think it would be cool if it had some sort of pattern, but maybe I would be overdoing it, because the other thing I haven't cut out yet is we still have the sentiment, which would let me grab this little guy. This sentiment would essentially kind of go along the bottom like this. So I think black could still work. I like a gray. This gray could be nice too. I've got a cream card base there, but I could switch it up. Ooh, this is like a striped. That could look nice. Ooh. I think I might have just found my card base. It's glittery, for those of you who don't like glitter. My husband does not like glitter. But I happen to really like glitter, so I think this is going to be the one. Okay, so I need to cut my card base down to size, or my background down to size, excuse me, and then I actually am gonna use a white card base. Whoops. I am gonna use a white card base, and I don't currently have one that is prepped, so I'm gonna need to grab some paper real quick and whip up a card base. So I want white paper instead of cream. I have several cream card bases, but I don't use cream a whole lot. And so I find myself not really knowing how to use them. You know what I could also do? There's, whoops. I'm just over here moving everything around. All right. So the other thing I could do is, this card base has like a little imperfection right there, and this is 5.5. And for my card base, I need it to be 4.25 by 5.5. So what I could actually do is just take this trimmer, and I could trim that existing card base. So I need this to be 4.25. And then that could be my card base. And then you just cut those imperfections right off. There you go. Problem solved. And then the other thing I need to do is cut this down to size. So I need it to be 5 1/4 by 4. And I want to make sure that I get like a clean cut because there's some like wrinkly pieces over there. So maybe I'll do this. Maybe I'll do 5 1/4 over here. And then I'll do 4 this way, and then I should have a pretty clean card base, card background, I should say, that I can use for this design. Okay, so there's a lot going on my table right now, and this has been a little bit of a fly by the seat of your pants kind of project, but hey, that is a-okay. All right, so I'm going to put this here as the background, and then I'm going to put my flowers right along here-ish, and then actually, should I put my flowers here and put this down here and this up here? I kind of like that idea a little bit better. All right. So we're gonna stick the background on the base. So I'm just using some mounting squares from scrapbook adhesive. These repositionable mounting squares are by far my favorite. I've used permanent squares and they're really great. I just prefer these because these give you a little bit of a wiggle room. So if you find that it's not exactly how you would have wanted it to be, you've got a little bit of time, like a few seconds, before it really takes hold and you're left like just kind of working with whatever happens. And sometimes you can't pull it up, depending on the type of paper you're using. The paper might wrinkle too easily or get damaged or whatever, but it has a little bit more play. And I get my scrapbook adhesive really anywhere I can find it at a reasonable price. They used to have it at Hobby Lobby, and I used to be able to use like store coupons to get it, but they did away with store coupons, I think, last year, which kind of stinks. But now I just don't get them there because it's not really a deal anymore. All right, so I'm just gonna put that there. And in case you're wondering how I get it pretty straight, I stand up and hover over top of it and just try to position it as accurately as I can. And then for my flowers and for my one of my hummingbirds, I'm going to use some like some foam adhesive, and I'm just going to cut it. And then sometimes I cut it a little smaller. Sometimes I'll make it little like rectangle pieces so that I can do something like this. And then I even have like little squares, little tiny squares, so that if I want to just kind of put it over here or put it over here, I can do that with a little bit more ease. The other thing that you can do is you could use some foam, like an actual foam piece of paper, and you could use the die to cut out the foam, and then that's kind of your like razor. I don't know what the appropriate term is, but sometimes I'll flip it over and I'll just see, okay, what does this look like? Like over here, there's no foam tape over here. So that is not going to really stay in place because you haven't really put anything there to make it stay in place. But it's such a thin area that I can't really easily put something there without also showing the foam tape. Like I can't easily hide it. So you just want to be mindful of that as you're making your card. All right, so that's probably about all I can do there. I'm going to go ahead and just stick this little piece over there because I've got it. And then I'm going to put some foam tape on this one as well. So I'm going to put a big piece of foam tape right in the middle. And then I'm going to grab a little piece, put it over here by the wing. Maybe I'll cut this piece in half. This little 1/4-inch piece in half, and I'll like do this. Flip it over, see where it has too much give. The wings and the eyes and the tail has a little more give than I'd like it to. So I'll just go ahead and cut this into a little piece, and then I'll stick it on the tail right here. And then I just have a little extra piece, so I'm just going to stick it there. And it should be good. All right, so now I'm going to get this foam tape out of the way. Oops, sorry, I moved my camera. Moved my camera a smidge. All right, so now I'm going to take the backs off of the foam tape. I usually just keep a tiny little bucket nearby, and so I can throw trash like the backs of these little pieces of foam tape. They come off pretty easily. And then I'll position this. And then from there, we'll put our sentiment on and we'll be done. So you can get as complex with this as you want. Like if I wanted to, I could have used a stencil to create the background. You could use molding paste. You could use anything you wanted, really. It's super flexible, and it's really up to you and how many steps you want to put into it. So I sometimes like to keep it simple. I very rarely will go all out and make something like super, super, super complex. And I tend to like smaller projects. Sorry, I just kicked my camera again. I was getting up to position this and I bumped my camera. So I think keep that in mind. Like a lot of times it can be really easy to say, oh, well, you know, if I want to get into card making, I have to buy all these things and I have to do all these techniques. You really don't have to unless you want to. If you find joy in doing it, then you absolutely should do those things that bring you joy, but you don't have to buy all the things, buy all the inks, buy all the markers. You saw in my swatch book that template that I just showed you. You saw how many cards I have, how many markers I have, and it's truly not that many. Should I buy more? Probably, but I just haven't. So you don't have to do anything. You just want to do the things that bring you joy. And card making is a hobby like any other hobby that, you do. If it stops bringing you joy, then, well, you don't have to do it anymore. But I usually don't make things super complex because I I get frustrated if I put a lot of work into something and then I mess it up because I got overcomplicated or I think it looks too busy afterwards. those are things where I'm like, oh, I wish I wouldn't have done that, or I wish I wouldn't have added that. So I tend to be a clean and simple design kind of person, but there are other people who want more. They want to keep adding to it, and that's fine as well. All right, so I'm adding this little hummingbird down at the bottom, and I'm almost kind of just letting the tail hang off a little bit, and maybe I'll just put it like right here. Maybe like right here-ish. So the other thing that I need to do is I need to put the sentiment on it. And again, it's happy birthday to you. So I think if I put it right here, that would still be a really good place where like the hummingbird just wouldn't get in the way. So I think I'll do that. I think we're gonna stick this little guy down, and then I need to decide what color I want to do the sentiment. I'm thinking that I have enough purple, so I don't think it needs to be purple, and I'm almost leaning towards this this like teal color right here. So I think I'm going to do that. So I'll just move my card out of the way real quick. Again, we will just get some of these pieces of paper off my plate. And I do need to cut this down a little bit because I've got more paper than I need and it won't fit. So I'm just kind of taking my scissors. I could also just use my paper trimmer and get an even cut, but the paper trimmer is so big. So, and I'm not going to worry about taping this down because there's not like a specific stamped image that I'm trying to maintain. So if it shifts a little bit during the process, it's not really a big deal. But again, I'm just going to run it through. And then we'll take it off and we'll see how we did. Ooh, this is actually coming out very cleanly, which is really nice. All right, happy birthday to you. Now I do have some things that I need to poke out of it. So we'll get this plate out of the way. By the way, my plate's really ugly. I've probably used it like 100 times. And I should get a new plate at some point, but I just haven't prioritized it. All right, so I have a couple things that I just need to poke out of this die. So I'm going to do that real quick. And these are like the little things, like the little O holes and the Y hole and the circle inside of the A and day. I got this little poking tool. I don't actually know what it's called. I just call it a poking tool. I got it from Cricut because I have a Cricut machine, and Cricut, if you make like fine little die cuts, it can be really tedious to try and pull all those little pieces of paper out, kind of like this. So I got the Cricut kit that has like different types of tools and things in it, and this was one of them. And I actually use it a lot for card making in general, like even when I'm not using my Cricut machine, because it's just really easy to use. Okay. All right, so this is going to say happy birthday to you. I'm probably just going to put it like right here. But I need to put some glue on it so that it will stick. So whenever I am using glue, I always keep a little stamping block nearby because I will apply the glue, I'll set the stamping block on it, and then that gives it a chance to kind of stay in place and like dry before it wants to move. And I just put a very, very little bit on here. I don't put a lot at all. If you put too much, it will squeeze out the sides and it will be shiny. And there is adhesive that you can get that's not shiny. But this particular adhesive is. I think the Tombow Mono Liquid Glue Duo. It's like the white glue. I think that does not dry shiny. But this has a very, very mild shine to it. So if you turn the paper in just the right way, you can catch it in the light. And it's not super noticeable, but if you're someone who makes cards on a regular basis, you notice it probably more than the person that you're giving it to. Okay. So, again, I'm just standing up and I'm just hovering over the card to get the orientation right. And then I'm gonna put it down and you'll start to see again, like I mentioned, like it wants to move, and that's just because it's not dry yet. So you want to try and get it in place, press the glue down, and then grab something like this and just put it over top. And I'm going to grab one from that side as well. Okay, so that's going to dry. Whoops, I bumped my headphones, sorry. So that's going to dry, and then that will be the end of the card project. So thank you everybody who stopped by today. I had a lot of fun with this card. I hope you did too. And don't forget that on the 20th, my giveaway is going to open. So the giveaway is going to be the Happy Birthday to You die. So the die that you see right here. I have 2 of those, and so I'm giving one of them away to one lucky winner who all you have to do is go to my Instagram, follow me on Instagram, like the post, and then leave a comment, and you'll be entered in the drawing to win this die. So once I know all of the, once I have everybody's name in, and once I pull the random winner, you'll be able to get the card in, or get the die in the mail. I will reach out on my Instagram. I'll direct message you on Instagram from my One Paper Street account. So if you get a message from any other account, it's not me. But go ahead and like the post, leave a comment, and follow me on YouTube, on Instagram to be eligible for the giveaway drawing. I hope that you had a really great time today. I know I really did. Thank you so much for stopping by. Thank you for all your support throughout the past 6 months since I started doing these live streams a little bit more frequently. I'm probably going to continue to do them about every 2 weeks. So if you have a card that you'd like to see, or you have a technique that you'd like to try, please let me know. I also do blog posts on my blog at onepaperstreet.com, and then I leave YouTube videos probably about once every 4 weeks right now. So I'm trying to get more frequent with that, but it just depends on my time commitments. So that's what you can look for from me. I'm going to have some Valentine's Day cards coming here in the future as well, so very excited about that. But thank you so much for stopping by. Again, my name's Robin. I had a really great time with you today, and I hope that you enjoy your evening. So take care, everyone.